What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And this is another one of those comparisons that nobody wanted, nobody asked for, but somebody had to do it. And like I said with the SC1, dude, like if I don't do it, then who else is going to do it? You know what I mean? So we're going to be taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 and comparing it to the iPhone 6s Plus. Now, obviously, any way you look at it, the Note 10 is the better device, okay? And this is not even a fair one. I mean, this is just basically, I know a lot of people like the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, so I figure I might as well do it. But there is one characteristic of the 6s Plus where it actually technically beats the Note 10, and I'll get into it in a second, and I'll probably tell you in like another minute or two, but the Note 10 obviously is the newest phone, one of the best newest phones that just came out. It came out like not even a month ago, like a couple weeks ago. The 6s Plus though came out in 2015, and for a lot of people, I think a lot of people still use this device because anytime I make a video about the 6s Plus, people go crazy about it, either this phone or the 6s, which is just a smaller version of this. So in my opinion, this is a crazy phone. A ton of people still use it, and rightfully so. I mean, it's still supported with software. It's still a very, very good device overall. So there's really no reason for a lot of people to go and upgrade. So that's kind of where we're at. This phone is about 4 years old at this time. This phone is not even 4 weeks old. So that kind of tells you the evolution of between these phones. So looking at the front, you can obviously tell there's a humongous difference. We have the hole punch type of design on the Note 10, but very little bezel. It's not completely bezel-less. There's still a little bit of bezel on the bottom and the top, but compared to something like this, it's pretty much bezel-less. On the 6s Plus, you can see that there's still a ton of bezel on it. There's no change in the design. Obviously, there's no change going to happen to the 6s Plus once it's already developed. But I do have a question, and I don't know who can answer this, but this is 4 years in the making. So this phone came out 4 years after this phone. So I wonder 4 years from now, will the Note 10 look like how we look like the 6s Plus at? You know what I mean? I hope that made sense. Basically, how we view the 6s Plus as being a huge phone with bezels or whatever. Is that how we're going to view the Note 10? Like, that's kind of something I always think about. But on the front of the 6s Plus, we have a 5.5-inch 1080p display. It's IPS panel, so it's not like anything crazy. 401 pixels per inch though. On the Note 10 though, we have a 6.3-inch dynamic AMOLED display. This one is also 1080p, but it's 401 pixels per inch as well. So this one technically has just as many PPI, or the pixels per inch density, screen density, as the 6s Plus, which I don't understand. That's the biggest problem I have with the Note 10. They could have easily fit a 1440p panel on here and up the PPI density. This phone has the same PPI as a phone that came out in 2014 and 2015. Even the 6 Plus has the same screen as this, so I don't know what was going on. Same resolution and everything. Obviously, in my opinion, this panel is better because it is a dynamic AMOLED. I mean, it's a better panel overall, but I feel like they could have done a better job at the resolution. Another huge thing about the Note 10 is that it does have certification, or IP certification at that. So it's IP68 dust and water proof, so it can go up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. The 6s Plus is not certified at all. However, I think we all know this by now. It has some water sealing in it, so if you like dipped it in water and took it out, I think you'd be okay, but I wouldn't test it obviously. But this one just does not have any certification. The 7 Plus was the first one to bring that. So now looking on the sides, you have the same type of buttons on both. You have the power buttons and the volume buttons. No Bixby button on here. On the back, we have a triple camera setup, single camera setup, which obviously you already know who the winner is. Now I said earlier there's one case where the iPhone 6s Plus actually beats the Note 10. That's actually at the bottom. So you do have USB Type-C on the Note 10. But on the 6s Plus, you have Lightning, but you also have that headphone jack, which for a lot of people might be a good enough reason to stick with the 6s Plus, or even get the 6s Plus, because this was the last one to have the headphone jack in the Apple series. The Note 10 has the S Pen though, which is a crazy cool feature. Now it's not going to be like an awesome comparison because the iPhone 6s Plus doesn't have anything that's like an S Pen for it. The iPhone 11 could potentially bring Apple Pencil support though, but the S Pen is so awesome, and that's like a humongous plus point for the Note 10 series. And this comparison doesn't really matter because this is kind of an old phone. But this is what pretty much differentiates the Note 10 versus even other Galaxy phones like the S10 and S10 Plus. And especially compared to the iPhones like the iPhone XS and XS Max, that is a super awesome feature that this phone has. Whether you use it or not, it's there for you. And that kind of covers up everything on the outside. Talking about software though, usually when I'm comparing an Android to an iOS device, most of the time I'm like the iOS device will outlast it. But in this case, I think we all know, and we're not really surprised, the Note 10 will probably outlast the iOS device here, the iPhone 6s Plus. Mostly because this phone is already 4 years old. It's at the end of its life cycle. I'm pretty sure it's going to end on iOS 13, but it could get iOS 14. Who knows? I might make a video talking about it. But the Note 10 started with Android Pie. It's going to get Android 10. It's going to get Android 11. I think it's going to stop there. But in custom ROM support, you can always, once the ROMs come out from third-party developers, you'll be able to flash a ROM, whether it's Android 12, 13, whatever the case is. I feel like this phone's going to be supported for a while. I feel like a lot of people are going to get this phone, which they already have. So there's going to be a huge third-party developer support behind it. So Either you can get it now or you can get it in a year or two once the prices have decreased a lot in the used market. But either or, you're going to use this phone in terms of stock software support for a while. And that kind of covers up everything in terms of software and hardware on the outside. I want to quickly do a speed comparison, but I think we're already going to know who the winner is. I'll go ahead and tell you the specs of both phones. So the iPhone 6s Plus has the Apple A9 chip, a dual-core CPU, 2 gigs of RAM on all its variants that had quite a bit of different variants of storage variants. The Note 10 has a Snapdragon 855 chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 640 GPU, and 8 gigs of RAM, but there's only one variant of this, which is the 256 gig variant. So let's go ahead and see which one is the faster device. If I had to say, I would probably say the Note 10 is, but let's go and find that out. Alright, all the apps are cleared out in the background. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now I have mostly the same apps on both devices. Let's do Facebook, 3, 2, 1. As you can see, the Note 10 did get into it faster. Let's do Instagram, 3, 2, 1. And you can see the Note 10 again. I'm pretty sure the Note 10 is going to win in every single comparison here. Let's do Twitter, 3, 2, 1. And you can see the Note 10, a very, very fast device. Let's do Bofa, 3, 2, 1. And you can see the Note 10 got into it way faster. The 6s Plus is still loading, and we eventually do get into it. But it's kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting that big of a difference. Let's do Thank You, 3, 2, 1. As you can see, we did get into it faster on the Note 10, and this isn't that graphically of an intensive game, but I do wonder if we can see any difference in terms of the gameplay. And so far, what I can see is I don't see that big of a difference, so it's not really that big of a deal, I guess. Snake versus Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And as you can see, the Note 10 did get into it faster, and getting into some gameplay here, I don't think there's going to be that big of a difference. However, I have seen on some devices, like on the 6s Plus, that sometimes the gameplay does get glitchy in the beginning with. And that's usually what I look out for when I'm looking at these things. I'm pretty much dead on both, but let's do Temple Run, 3, 2, 1. And as you can see, we're pretty much already almost loaded on the Note 10 where the 6s Plus just started. And you can see we're already loaded on the Note 10 and the 6s Plus. We are into it now. So as you can see, there's a pretty big gap between them. Is it humongous? I mean, yes, but if you don't compare them side by side, maybe you won't notice. Fruit Ninja, 3, 2, 1. And on the Note 10, we're already loaded. And the 6s Plus, we are slowly going to get into it. As you can see here, you can hear the audio on this one. But ultimately, what I can tell you is the Note 10 is the faster device overall. We kind of already knew that. I didn't even need to do this for you guys to know that. But the 6s Plus, I think, is still a pretty decent performer. I mean, it's not really comparable to what we have nowadays, because the phones we have nowadays are much faster. But it still has its place. And for me to just kind of overlook it is kind of weird, because literally even just up until last year, Apple was still selling this in the Apple stores. And I still think, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. For a 4-year-old device, it doesn't perform that bad. Now, hitting on the camera super quickly, you have a 12 megapixel sensor on the 6s Plus, but you have a triple camera setup on the iPhone, on the Note 10. Now, this is a single camera sensor if you couldn't tell. You have two 12 megapixel sensors here and a 16 megapixel ultra wide sensor. And what I'll tell you is this. The 6s Plus, I think, is not that bad of a camera. I still think, honestly, I'm not even that big of a photographer, so I'm probably the worst one to talk about this, but I still think, you give me an iPhone 5S or you give me a Galaxy Note 4, and I still think that's a pretty decent camera. However, I think most of the problems that you have with iOS camera is not even, or even the 6s Plus camera, is not necessarily the camera sensor itself, but more so the app. I just feel like there's just not enough settings. Here you can see you have a couple things here and you have, slow-mo and things like that, but for the most part it's pretty basic. And if you want to change settings, you have to go through the actual settings app and then go to the camera thing. It's just so annoying. I feel like they could have just done something better. Whereas on the Note 10, it's a much better sensor, and not only a better sensor, but you have way more features as well. And not even just compared to the 6s Plus, but even to something like the iPhone XS and XS Max, which I've already compared to. It's crazy how much better not only the sensors are, but the apps themselves. So you have all these different settings over here. You have video, car, all these things. But if you click on the settings up here, you can change all these different things, which are straight through the camera app. You don't have to go through a different app. So ultimately, I'll definitely tell you the Note 10 not only has a better camera sensor compared to the 6s Plus or really any other iPhone, but also the app is better as well. And that's really what I look for. So hopefully Apple can get in on that, hopefully sometime soon, but that pretty much covers up the camera. Now, in terms of the battery life, you have a 3500 mAh battery on the Note 10 and a 2750 mAh battery on the 6S Plus. And obviously, if you couldn't tell, the Note 10 is going to be better. The thing with the older phones is that batteries do degrade over time and they depreciate. So this is probably not at that 2750 anymore. It's probably at like 2200 or probably even worse, depending on the condition and how much you used it and all that other stuff. So ultimately, I'll just give the edge to the Note 10 here. It's really not much of a competition. And that pretty much covers it. So if you couldn't already tell, obviously pick up a Note 10 over a 6S Plus. However, if this phone was like a 10 out of 10, 100% like the best phone ever, I think this would probably be like a 7.5 out of 10 or something like that. Like, I still think this can do most of what this can do. I just think this is a better phone overall. I mean, if you don't have a bias towards Android or iOS, pick up this. But if you're in the middle and you want something used, but that's also very good, pick up an iPhone 10 if you want, or even pick up a Galaxy Note 9. You can find a Note 9 cheaper than an iPhone 10. But those are two phones that I would highly recommend if you're in between. You don't want to get a brand new one, but you don't want to get like a used older one like this. An iPhone 10 or a Note 9 will probably be your best bet in terms of used best valued phone. So that pretty much covers that, guys. If you have any questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.